She didn't have the degree, but she held the power. "Don't you dare! You don't get to take credit for Nina's work again." The words came like thunder, raw and full of fury, from the conference room ahead. I froze outside the frosted glass door, my arms full of reports, my breath catching as I heard Elijah's voice echo through the hallway. The familiar burn of anxiety tightened in my chest. "You have no idea what you're talking about," came the ice-cold reply from Veronica Hale, the newly appointed vice president of sales. "I've been cultivating the Connexa relationship for months. Nina merely executed the strategy I outlined." The hallway felt smaller than usual. I closed my eyes for a breath, then pushed the door open. Elijah's face lit up with hope as I entered. Veronica, immaculate as ever in a power suit that screamed wealth and status, didn't flinch. She sat perfectly poised, as if she hadn't just tried to erase a year of my work with a few elegant lies. "Nina, perfect timing," Elijah said. "Please just clarify for Veronica. Who created the Connexa pitch deck?" I swallowed. "That would be me." "My name is Nina Colson. I'm 31. For the past 6 years, I've poured my soul into Virion Technologies, a mid-sized logistics software firm in St. Louis. Nothing glamorous, just the digital infrastructure that keeps goods flowing across the nation. I started as a sales assistant, worked my way up to senior client strategist through nothing but grit and relentless output. My degree from Missouri State hangs in my modest gray cubicle, not Columbia, not Wharton, a fact Veronica Hale loved to remind me of. "We were just discussing the Connexa proposal," Veronica said smoothly, as though Elijah hadn't been shouting moments ago. "I'll need your final notes today. I plan to polish everything before the signing." I met her gaze. Calm, steady. "The presentation's already finalized. I built the deck around a tailored logistics integration for their mixed fleet strategy." "I'll still need to review it," she said, her voice honey-dipped poison. "This is a $52 million contract over 5 years. It must be perfect." I nodded, my voice even. "It is." What I didn't say was, I'd lived and breathed Connexa for nearly 12 months. Missed birthdays, holidays, and weekends. I'd flown to their Dallas headquarters 5 times. I knew their CEO's coffee order and their COO's daughter's softball schedule. I hadn't just sold a product. I'd earned their trust. But Veronica didn't care, because Veronica played a different game. Elijah walked with me back to my desk, his voice low. "She's going to try to cut you out of the final signing." I gave a faint smile. "Let her try. Morgan Vale doesn't sign anything unless I'm in that room." Morgan, the CEO of Connexa, and, incidentally, my roommate in college, was a woman of principle. We'd survived terrible landlords and midterm breakdowns together. While I never used our friendship to win the deal, it gave me a foot in the door. The rest? I earned that. Later that day, an email landed from our CEO, Carter Darnell. I was summoned to the executive boardroom for a meeting the next morning. My hands trembled. That room wasn't for people like me. The next morning, I stepped into the boardroom, heart pounding. It smelled like power, lemon polish, and glassy silence. I took a seat at the far end of the mahogany table, surrounded by suits, all men, all polished, all ivy. Carter, sharp as ever in his dark blazer, sat at the head. Veronica perched to his right, a leather folio open. 3 other executives flanked the room. "Nina," Carter said, "Veronica tells me you've made significant progress with Connexa." "Yes," I replied, sitting straighter. "We've verbally secured the full contract. $52 million over 5 years with an optional renewal clause. "That's historic," he said. "Outstanding." I nodded once. Pride flickered in my chest. But then, "We have concerns," Veronica said, her tone sweet as arsenic. "A client of this size requires top-tier relationship management. We fear Nina may not have the executive-level experience necessary." The breath caught in my throat. "I've led the relationship from day one," I said carefully. "Morgan Vale personally requested I stay on through implementation." Veronica gave a practiced smile. "And you've done excellent foundational work." No one's denying that. But they were. Carter wouldn't meet my eyes. "As we position for growth," he said finally, "we must project an image that matches our ambitions. That includes bringing in leadership with enterprise backgrounds." Translation: Missouri State wasn't shiny enough. 6 years of performance didn't outweigh Veronica's Stanford MBA. "We appreciate everything you've contributed," Carter said, "but Veronica will be leading final negotiations." My voice was barely above a whisper. "Is there a concern with my performance?" "Not at all," Carter replied. "You've exceeded expectations. But this is a matter of long-term alignment." I couldn't feel my hands. My skin prickled. My voice dropped. Deadly calm. "You're removing me 2 days before the contract closes." Silence. "No one's being removed," Veronica replied. "We're optimizing visibility. You'll still be involved, just behind the scenes." The word visibility echoed in my skull. The meeting ended. No outburst, no tears. Just betrayal, gift-wrapped in corporate politeness. As I packed up my files later that day, Elijah leaned over. "You should fight this." I wrapped my diploma in brown paper. "No need." "They think they're cutting you out, Nina?" I smiled coldly. "On Monday, they'll learn the truth." Monday morning, 9:15 a.m. I was curled up on my worn apartment couch, sipping cinnamon coffee, the quiet hum of the city outside my window. My inbox remained closed. My phone, however, was alive, buzzing with a simple message. "Morgan Vale. Heading into the signing now. Wish you were here. Brunch this weekend?" I typed back casually. "Wouldn't miss it. Good luck in there." What she didn't know, what I hadn't told her, was that I wouldn't be joining her at Virayon today. I hadn't mentioned being terminated. I wanted the chips to fall exactly as they deserved. 10 minutes later, another message. "Morgan, something's off. Call you after." I set the phone down and waited. By 10:23 a.m., it rang. Elijah's name lit up the screen. "Nina," he breathed, barely keeping the shock out of his voice. "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this." "Try me," I said, setting my mug aside. Morgan walked into the conference room, looked around and asked, "Where's Nina?" he said. "When Veronica said you were no longer with the company," Morgan snapped. "She said, and I quote, 'If Nina's not part of this, we're reevaluating this partnership immediately.'" I closed my eyes and pictured it, Veronica's smug face draining of color. "Then what?" I asked. "Carter tried to spin it, said it was a team transition and you were pursuing other ventures, but Morgan wasn't having it. She said Virayon only got this far because of you, that without you she doesn't trust the execution." I smiled, just slightly. "They're in Carter's office now," Elijah continued. "Legal's scrambling. Veronica's pacing like a caged animal." "There's no signed contract," I reminded him. "Just a verbal commitment, and I made sure of that." Elijah paused. "How did you know this would happen?" I hesitated. "Morgan and I were college roommates. She's more than just a client. Silence. And they never even asked, he muttered. They just looked at your diploma and assumed. Exactly. At 11:10 a.m., my phone blew up. 3 missed calls from Veronica, 2 from Carter, a message from Virion's HR, dripping with false cheer, and then finally, the 4th call from Carter that I decided to answer. Nina, he exhaled, relief heavy in his voice. We need to talk. I'm listening. There seems to have been some confusion. Morgan's under the impression that you're essential. Not a confusion, I said coolly. A fact. A long pause. I could almost see him adjusting his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. We may have acted prematurely. Would you consider returning to lead implementation? I let the silence stretch. You fired me, I said, because my degree didn't fit your image. And now, with $52 million on the line, you want me back? Nina, please, name your terms, title, salary, whatever it takes. I already had my answer. I'd had it all weekend. No, I replied, I'm not coming back. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You valued pedigree over performance. I gave you loyalty, results, and leadership, and you replaced me with a fancy MBA who didn't even know the client's first name. Nina will lose the contract. Then you'll learn what I'm worth. I hung up. Not long after, Morgan called. They fired you? After everything? I kept my voice calm. I wanted to see if they'd own up to it. They didn't. I was livid, she said. Their arrogance, they thought I wouldn't notice. Thank you, I said quietly. You didn't just pitch a product. You understood our pain points better than anyone. Their solution isn't even the best. You are, and I have an idea. I'm listening. You remember Ian Mercer? Graduated 2 years ahead of us. Started Everwind Solutions. They're eating into Virion's market share. He's been trying to land a meeting with me for months. The wheels in my head turned. Fast. I can connect you, Morgan said. He's looking for someone to head enterprise development. You want me to work for a direct competitor? I want you to thrive, and if Everwind's system fits our needs, I'll gladly shift our business. That afternoon, I met Ian Mercer for coffee. He was sharp, warm, and efficient. He asked about my client approach, not my resume. And by the end of our conversation, he slid a draft across the table. Director of Strategic Growth, full autonomy, double my old salary, significant equity. He smiled. Virion made the dumbest mistake of their life. Let me show you what recognition looks like. I signed. 2 days later, Morgan formally ended contract talks with Virion and entered a new negotiation with Everwind. It made waves, and word spread fast. Other clients took notice. So did other Virion employees, many of whom reached out privately, asking where I'd gone. 1 month into my new role, Elijah joined my team. 2 more Virion managers followed. 3 months later, headlines read, Connexa switches to Everwind, $45 million contract shift shakes logistics industry. 6 months later, Virion CEO resigns amid declining revenue. 1 year later, Everwind appoints Nina Colson as Chief Revenue Officer after 150% growth surge. That morning, I walked into my corner office, Ohio University diploma, framed proudly on the wall. Because it's never about where you came from. It's about who you become when they count you out. Exactly 1 year to the day since Virion Tech had discarded me, I stood in front of a sleek glass wall inside Everwind's newly expanded headquarters. Our logo now shined beside Connexa's in the main conference hall. a silent reminder of the empire we were building. We had just wrapped our annual summit, where I presented our enterprise growth strategy to over 300 clients and investors. As I stepped off stage, my assistant met me with a proud grin. "You crushed it, and you have a guest waiting." She handed me a note. "Philip Carter." I blinked. Elijah, now our enterprise success lead, appeared beside me. "He's here? That Carter?" Apparently, he booked a visitor slot under a different name. Reception didn't recognize him. I sighed, brushed off my blazer, and made my way to the executive lounge. There he was. Same slicked back hair, same expensive watch. Only now he looked tired, hollowed out. "Nina," he said, standing awkwardly, hand half extended. "Thank you for seeing me." I didn't shake it. "What do you want, Carter?" He cleared his throat. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but Virion is struggling. Since the Connexa fallout, our board's been in turmoil. We've lost 3 major accounts. We're in the middle of acquisition talks with an overseas firm." I waited, letting the silence force him forward. "I've stepped down as CEO, but I wanted to ask, off the record, how you did it, how you turned Everwin into the leader so quickly." My smile was small, controlled. "By not underestimating people who don't fit the mold." He winced. "You know what the real difference is between us?" I continued. "You spent your time polishing the surface. I spent mine understanding the foundation, and you forgot. Foundations hold everything up. I admit we made a mistake." "No. You made a choice. You valued status over skill, networks over results. And when I walked out that door, I took every ounce of value with me." He lowered his eyes. "I don't need an apology," I added. "I already got what I deserved, and I earned it without needing to humiliate you. That's the difference. I just—" He paused, genuinely lost. "I never thought it would all fall apart like that." "Then maybe you were never the leader you thought you were." I walked out without another word. That night, as I sat by my apartment window, no longer cramped, no longer temporary, I opened a new message from Morgan Vale. "Morgan, you free Friday? I was invited to speak at a Women in Tech panel. They want to hear your story." I laughed softly and replied, "Only if you're on stage too." Moments later, another message from Ian popped up. "Ian, press team just sent over your CRO promotion release. Want to review it before it goes live?" I opened the file. It read, "From underestimated to unstoppable. Nina Colson, named Chief Revenue Officer at Everwin, following record-breaking year." Below it was a photo of me, standing proud, arms folded, Everwin skyline behind me. I stared at the image, not for vanity, but for memory. This was the same woman they said didn't belong in the boardroom, the same woman they fired without cause, the same woman they tried to erase from the story. But I wrote a better ending, and this time I signed it in ink they couldn't wash away. As I leaned back, my eyes settled on the old Missouri State diploma hanging above my desk. No gold seal, no Ivy League crest, just a name, mine, and the quiet proof that where you begin has nothing to do with how far you rise. It was nearly midnight when I found myself alone in the office, the skyline glowing against the glass behind me. The building was quiet, the chaos of meetings, contracts, and calendar alerts long gone. But I stayed, not because I had to, because I wanted to. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city below, the same city I once felt too small for, the same city that now pulsed beneath my feet with purpose I helped shape. Behind me, the faint glow of my office lamp fell across my framed photo with Morgan and Elijah from the Connexa launch, a snapshot of the moment we shook hands on a deal everyone said I couldn't land. My fingers traced the frame lightly. My phone buzzed once more, a message from Elijah. Carter's former assistant just applied to join our admin team. Guess people are finally seeing the difference between title and talent. I smiled. Everything had changed, and yet the most important parts of me hadn't. I was still the woman who worked late, who earned every inch, who never needed flash to be brilliant. I still believed in strategy over showmanship, in trust over titles, and in the power of people who had to fight twice as hard to be taken seriously. People like me. I turned off the light and stepped out of my office. My heels clicked softly against the marble, echoing with calm certainty. The halls didn't intimidate me anymore. Now, they welcomed me, because I wasn't just in the building now. I was the building, and as the elevator doors closed behind me, I whispered to myself, "Never let them convince you your roots make you weaker. They just make you harder to uproot."